We're ready for the Mike and Doug show, but we can't find the head miner. I think he's stuck in the mines, Douglas.
Sometimes the elevator gets stuck, and sometimes I'm worried that there might have been a cave-in because he goes so deep he comes out on the other side of the earth in China.
I give him a call. I say, hey, Mike, we're ready to get started. Where are you? And he goes, I'm pulling together some last facts. The miners are sending it up, and I want to make sure the report is full. And what we're talking about, people, is Kari Lake. Oh, my goodness. We could smell a stinky fish a mile away with her. That's why I don't post a lot of stuff on her, because I know there's something about her. Well, it turns out that she's just like an all-American girl, but really very naive. In fact, she probably doesn't even know about the Pilgrim Society. And I'm thinking she doesn't really know what her husband is up to. And his name is Halpern, Jeff Halpern. And what the miners found about him would make me sick as a woman to think that I had a husband like that, following me around with the video camera. That's like stalking your wife.
Being groomed for propaganda is also being groomed for politics, because it's one and the same. These are the biggest liars on the face of the earth, politicians and newscasters. And she was a newscaster.
That's the first giveaway. She works for mainstream media, NBC. You can't trust any of those people.
No, you can't. It would be literally tantamount to impossible that a newscaster, an anchor, didn't know that she wasn't doing any investigative journalism.
It's sort of like DeSantis. When I saw or Kamala Harris, I mean, you can sniff them long before they get into the public eye. And so I called up the mines and said, you need to do a deep dive on Kari Lake. And they said, why? She seems to be okay. I said, no, there's something in her background. And sure enough, there is. It's sort of like with Kamala Harris. Remember that time we said, oh, Kamala Harris, she's going to run for president. You watch, or vice president or something. And so we went in there, we got a birth certificate, brought it up, shared it with everybody. And everybody knows Kamala Harris is not eligible to hold the office of vice president or president. She's an illegal alien as far as we can tell. There has been no proof of her citizenship. And even if she does prove her citizenship, you're going to see she's not a natural born. And so here we are. Kari Lake smells like a fish to me. And Mike, here you are, so I'll get off.
Hello.
Hi, Mike. So we're already beating up on Kari Lake. I just want to say that I hope that they will bring out new candidates. First off, this election is way too premature. DeSantis has already gotten in and gotten out. You've already eliminated a half a dozen people that could have been also running for the office or being a vice presidential candidate. And then when people kept saying to me, you have to listen to Kari Lake, she's saying great things. You know what I said to them? So did Jeff Sessions.
Mm-hmm.
This is a setup for Trump. I couldn't once ever listen to Kari Lake speak a single word, because after 15 seconds of hearing her, I said she's a complete idiot, she's a stooge, and she is a liar.
No, Mike is not going to say she's a liar. Mike is going to pull up the facts and show us. We posted the research yesterday, and here comes Bannon the Bloviator saying that Robert F. Kennedy would be a great vice president. And if he doesn't work out, Kari Lake. So you see, we can smell it a mile away. Mike?
Oh, I smelled her so far away. And she knows that she didn't write her script. Her script is the same script as every other anchor in America. Is it possible that Kari Lake is so ignorant that she didn't know that her script, her propaganda, was being written for her by Avid, by ISIS management, by the Brits? Is it even possible that someone could be in that position and not know that?
Well, they would really have to be brain dead. They see those chyrons on their screens that they read every night. And surely at some point, somebody's going to say, well, who wrote this? Where did it come from?
So when they said, she's running for governor in Arizona and she lost and she's going to fight it and she's going to sue who? Who did she sue? First off, people don't understand that this is the state legislature who's in control of the elections. And unless you get them to change the law, they're not breaking the law. They're not doing anything illegal. They passed new laws to create all of that fraud ability in the last presidential election. She knew that. She knew when she ran for governor exactly what was going on. But it is, as Tyler mentioned before you came up out of the mines, and I hope you get that elevator fixed, because I would hate for you to get stuck down there sometime. It'd just be terrible. The question is, why does Trump and why does everyone think that she should be Trump's vice presidential running mate? When if Trump had a single ounce of intelligence, he would have never approved warp speed and the World Health Organization's recommendations. He would have simply ended our relationship with the World Health Organization and the UN. Why would he not know that Kari
I can tell
Lake
you
is
why.
nothing more than a setup?
It has nothing to do with Kari Lake. Trump was raised in the same America that we were raised in. Now, when you go to New York, for example, and you walk into any office building pretty much across the board, you're going to see media outlets pitching NBC, CBS, ABC on every screen in every room. And I know that Trump's offices had that. So when that's all you're listening to, you're going to be programmed to think a certain way about certain issues and certain people. Trump is a product of the American culture. And so I think it is possible because I think most of us have been there. We just accepted what ABC, CBS, NBC said.
Well, don't forget Walter Cronkite. We all thought he was our
Oh,
daddy, our
Walter-
grandfather. We believed
Walter,
everything he said. And he turns out to be a Pilgrim Society member.
Exactly.
So if anybody is coming from mainstream media for a political career, cats all around the world should say, hey, stop and research them.
Absolutely, because what we've noticed is something more than just a one-off. We've seen a pattern here in how these government by journalism propagandists groom somebody to be put forward. And this is another good example.
Could be that her second husband has been her controller, and that as soon as she found out really what was going on, they promoted her to a position in New York where she then became an anchor. Okay, you can't become an anchor without knowing that the mainstream media is nothing but lies. So you're a liar. And if you're repeating those lies, you invite the specters, the phantoms, and the demons into yourself. And then she did what? Well, what do they all like to do? Once they're the demonic spokesperson in a mainstream media anchor position, the only higher position working for the devil is to run as a politician. Facial recognition on television means you're probably going to get elected. It doesn't matter how stupid you are, just that you're well known. And it's not even a popularity contest because you usually don't have good choices. You're choosing the lesser of two evils.
Well, when we started the investigation, we saw a telltale problem. We saw page after page after page on these obscure websites where they're showing her biography with that of her husband, Jeff Halpern. You read through a couple of them and you think, okay, there's nothing here, and you move on. But what we discovered is that some of these websites were being published from Ghana and from Vietnam. And so these are obvious shill sites that are used to fool most of the people who don't have time to do deep research. So if you just take the first couple of pages of Google, you think you've done your research. But having now spent the time on it, we see all the telltale signs of grooming, unhelpful issues in the person's past are being buried. But in her case, it wasn't so much her that was being buried, but the resume of her NBC videographer husband, Jeffrey Elliott Halpern. His background was being buried. It took us a week to get past the barrage of discombobulated evidence. And we even found one biography that actually had taken the resumes from 3 different Jeffrey Halperns and mixed them all together. And so they are working hard to make sure we don't know who Jeffrey Halpern is.
You know, it always leads back to the same place, which basically you might as well say mainstream media, because it's the exact same people who from the Empire Press Union, which now still exists and is still the controlling factor for the Associated Press and Thomson Reuters. It all comes from the city of London. All of our news, anytime you get any news,
Right.
if it's breaking news, where'd it come from?
Well,
One
I
of the
noticed-
shill London newspapers.
Last night, I was looking at Fox News, and they were actually using the Daily Mail as their news source for information related to the Trump indictment. You mean we don't have a single newspaper that we can cite other than the Daily Mail in the UK? Man, they must have reporters like little rats running all over our country.
Fox got sued by Dominion for lying about the fake election, and they had to do that so there could be a lawsuit on record showing that the people admitted that they were guilty for stating the truth. The truth is, it was the most obvious and the most reported fraudulent presidential election in history. 2 million fake votes in Pennsylvania alone that came in through mail. Well, yes, the legislature, as I said before, did pass a law that made that legal because of the pandemic. That's part of the reason for the pandemic happening, was so that they would get control of locking people down so that they could then have mail-in votes so that they could manipulate them exactly as they do with all electronic voting machines that are run by the software called Optech, which was owned and created by the United Nations and Mark Malloch Brown. What are we dealing with here? We're dealing with a person who ran for governor, but what did she run for governor on? Just like DeSantis, the MAGA ticket. And DeSantis is a pathetic attempt to mimic Trump. So if you think Fox is the hero of conservative Republicans, you're extremely naive.
These guys learned over 100 years ago how to play the Galilean dialectic. We haven't seen the inner workings of this tactic, so therefore most people assume it didn't exist.